Hey, you happy growers. We are fortunate enough to have a friend of ours named Chris from a very popular company called Promix. And he's going to get to answer all the questions for the medium. And if you don't have your medium right, you can do everything else right. But if the roots are not planted properly, you're going to have very, very unfortunate success trying to fix problems. So I'm going to go at him right now. Growers many, many years ago found the Promix product. There he is. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, Justin?
Welcome.
Thank you very much, good sir.
So we're going to find out about all things growing today in regards to mediums. We're going to really get into it today. So Green Planet, we sell Promix, we sell your Coco, and we sell your blocks and your open top grow bags. The rip top open grow bags. And I'm a big fan of the product, and I really like your Coco coir. We're actually growing in it right here. Let me see if I can grab a plant without, anyways, I'll bring you down to the plants instead of, so this is the Coco coir right here.
All right.
We're doing the 1 gallon pots. Tell me a little about yourself, Chris, so that the viewers get an idea of who, what, where, when.
Yes, sir. I've been in and out of the industry for about 20 years. I started out in the gardening industry at the Scotts Miracle-Gro. Ran about $105 million in business on the Depot, Lowe's, Walmart side of the business. I'm a vet, suffer from Crohn's disease and PTSD. So a lot of people say, well, how does the guy, I'm a UNC grad, bachelor's, master's, this corporate guy, as he find his way into the cannabis? And the answer to that was, during the time my Crohn's was really bad, and I had multiple surgeries, and I had about 3 foot of colon removed.
Holy!
It was so severe, and I was suffering from PTSD at the time, and the VA had put me on Oxycontins after the surgery. So I was up to, I think, at 1.380 milligram oxys a day. So
that's an awful lot of oxy.
Yeah, it was during the oxy, days where they were just prescribing them like candy, and it got really bad. And I have 4 kids now, but at the time I had 2 kids, and it was affecting my family, and it almost diverted my family. And I didn't know how to get off them, and cannabis is how I did get off them. I ended up going into high doses of oral cannabis. Went cold turkey off the oxys. The withdrawals, if you've ever withdrawn for oxys, some of the worst in the world. So I really used cannabis to, one, get off the oxys. It helped minimize the withdrawals. It really made things a lot more bearable, if bearable is a word, when you're withdrawing off that stuff. But moving forward, after I got off it, one of the challenges has always been, with Crohn's, you're always in pain. You never have an appetite. They want to put you on biologics to kill your immune system. It's like 20 pills a day. So I started doing a lot of research in cannabis and its help with autoinflammatory diseases, and more specifically in Crohn's disease. Got really into NIH and a lot of research studies, and started using it to manage my Crohn's.
What's NIH?
National Institute of Health. So they do a lot of research studies. Even though cannabis is illegal, they still do some tests on how the compound of THC interacts with our bodies and our immune system's inflammatory disease. So lots and lots of research, and wanted to give back. I felt like cannabis saved my life. I really mean that. At the time, we're talking around 2010, I really felt like it gave me another purpose, another breath of air to live. And so I ended up leaving the Scotts Miracle-Gro and jumped into the cannabis space. I wanted to take all the knowledge that I had from the research that I did on my own, from all the knowledge I had in the ag space, the garden space, and I just wanted to come over here and do some cool shit and help people grow really good medicine. And they're some of the coolest people in the world. I got to smoke some of the coolest stuff, some of the best flavored stuff. I got to travel the world. I've had a blast in helping people grow better medicine.
I mean, you're right when you say we're some of the coolest people, because genuinely it is a community. And it's a community largely of, especially if you've been in a long time, of people that go counter the flow, right? We're trail setters and rule breakers, and we believe in finding natural forms of medicine. And you hit the nail on the head with regards to opioids. I mean, I talk to a lot of people that have been addicted to opioids, And withdrawal of opioids can kill you. And it's no joke. 80s are big dog opioids. And, there's tons of research and shows saying, oh my God, look at this opioid epidemic. It didn't just happen. People died, families were destroyed, and all in the meanwhile, their government asks you to go to war for them and says, oh, by the way, you can't consume that very dangerous plant that could possibly save your life. There's a serious double standard there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we can touch on before we move forward. Is that's the other double-edged standard is I found a medicine that I could take every day that would help me. I didn't have to take these biologics that killed my immune system, and I could catch every disease. Right? I didn't have to take 10 pills when I wake up in the morning. But then when I went to the VA, because they were treating me, I had to get drug tested, right? And cannabis is a narcotic. It's not a medicine. It's a narcotic. It's right up there with heroin, cocaine, crack, meth. I mean, those ones are Schedule 1s. It's considered a Schedule 1. And if you popped hot with cannabis, you could potentially lose your disability. Yep. So I'm a disabled vet and I get a check. I could lose my disability. Any medications that I was taking that weren't directly related to my Crohn's, just maybe general wellness medicines, I could lose those. I could lose my VA benefits. There's a whole wealth and it's not like that as much now, especially in the California VA system, which is a really amazing VA system. But, it's worth noting that any veteran out there to this day that's using cannabis to heal themselves, that don't want to be on clonazepam, don't want to be on Oxycontin, don't want to be on Percocet, don't want to be on, all these brain drugs. If you're using cannabis, you're at risk of losing everything that you earned fighting for your country. So it's pretty sad. And I hope that one day we can get out of this digressive movement and move more into the progressive movement in that system.
That's why, fortunately, I got to work with Glenn from 61 Charlie to help veterans, to find genetics that genuinely help veterans with PTSD. And honestly, it's a movement that's very near and dear to me. Those that put their lives on the line should be able to access whatever they want. And oh, by the way, you can grow it at home in your backyard. Let's get into it.
Sure.
Promix.
Let's do this. Promix, or better known, or lesser known, Promix is the better known,
Yeah.
Premier Tech, right? Premier Tech is the head company. We've been around for 100 years, so we're not just a jump in this industry fly-by-night company. We're celebrating our 100th year this year, and it's kind of amazing that they've been around this long. Also, it says a lot about who they are as a company, as the culture, to be able to survive 100 years in an open market where, there's competition constantly.
I couldn't agree. That's an insane amount of time.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Before we get into the products, Premier Tech Promix, I'll say this, as we get started. At the core of it, we are a science and research company before we're a product-facing company, right?
Yeah.
The cool thing about Premier really invests in their science and their research. They really want to understand, because they started in ag and then horticulture, they really want to understand the science behind everything that's done. The science comes first, the research comes first, the product is ancillary. Once we figure out how it works, why it works, and how to make it better, then we invent the product, right? But it always starts with research first. And I think that's what makes us so unique as a company, is that we always put that science and that innovation, that technology, that research first. And as we talked, I think offline, Premier Tech didn't necessarily come into the cannabis space. We were more or less invited. We have bale products that have worked really well. We sell them in the ornamentals, horticulture, ag space. They're great products bought by millions, and the cannabis space as well uses them. They started using them, and they're like, wow, we really love this product. It's a great product. Mycorrhiza in it. Our plants seem to thrive. It's good dry back in different products. So, seeing that and realizing that the cannabis space was using our product in their market, we thought, well, that's great. We love that they love our product, but let's create some products that are specific to their market. If you're going to use our product, well, we know margins are crunched in the cannabis space. It's tight. Taxes, laws are always changing. The only way that we're going to help you make this work is create amazing quality products. So the products have to work first. They have to be great quality, better than anybody else's in the industry. They have to pass that check mark. Then they also have to help you, right? Not just help you in the sense of create great plants, but from a business standpoint, right? Anybody that buys a product is looking at the business, right? It's got to go from grow to the counter, and everywhere along the way you lose money. So our goal with these new products is to cut that back, right? We want to decrease your labor costs. We want to decrease everywhere we can so that you can increase that margin on the back end.
So like I said at the very beginning, if you get your medium wrong, or you use a medium that's too alkaline, or you don't compensate for something that's too acidic, you don't get that sweet spot for pH. It doesn't matter what food you're using, it doesn't matter what lights you're running. This is touching your roots. And if you don't get this part of the equation right, you're already starting very, very behind. I'll show you the blocks. These are the CX blocks. Now these blocks, simply, this is the way they're shipped. They're biodegradable plastic, which is another thing I like. And you hydrate them, throw them in tubs, a whole bunch of tubs or whatever you want. Hydrate them with reverse osmosis water. And they come in 1, 2, 3, and 5. And they get big. I mean, this is like, that's a substantial pot.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I was at a cultivation facility on the East Coast, and our CX 2 gallons were being trialed, and they were being trialed against competitor X. Doesn't matter who, but they were also being trialed against another 2-gallon pot. And the grower takes me over and she goes, "Look at your pots." And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Look at these. They're both 2 gallons." And I'm like, she's like, "Your pot is significantly bigger." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'd never really noticed that." And she's like, "Yeah." So what we did was, she's like, "We felt like something wasn't right." She said, "So we emptied out the competitor's 2-gallon pot of cocoa mix." She said, "And then we took your 2-gallon, started putting it into the other 2-gallon, and we were even tamping it down and could not fit all of your product into the 2-gallon." So they were actually getting about 1.75 gallons from the competitor that had it marked as a 2-gallon. Our 2 gallons are 2 gallons, but I think it's fair to say you might get a little more than 2 gallons in our gallons.
They're definitely bigger than an average 1-gallon pot for sure. I'd say about 30-40% larger in size.
Yeah.
So.
And our mix is, you know, I don't want to comment on anybody else's mix, but we take good pride in our mix, and we don't just use the husk, we use the pith too. Like with soil, you want it aerated in a specific way, so you use vermiculite or perlite. You use all these different to aerate your peat in your soil in there. We do the same thing with our CX blocks. We've got a mix of both pith and husk to give you that nice aeration. If you look at our cocoa, it's really nice, it's fluffy, it's got air to breathe.
And it has great drybacks. Drybacks meaning it wicks up the moisture faster. You get to have more drybacks, usually means a higher oxygenated product. Another thing with the product is something called cation exchange capacity. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so, you know, when we're looking at cation exchange capacity, that's a mouthful right there. I didn't realize that. Yeah, so, you know, what we want to do is ensure that there is exchange with the nutrients in the core to the plant itself. What we don't want to have is a high sodium buildup that's going to block the nutrients from the plant. So our cocoa, I'll speak to ours and how it relates to what you're talking about. So we wash our cocoa, and then the EC on that is below a 0.5, but we don't actually do CalMag wash on our cocoa, right? So that's worth noting to anybody that buys our cocoa. We don't CalMag wash it. We don't do that for a couple of reasons. One is we don't CalMag wash our cocoa in Sri Lanka because we don't want to pollute the waterways. And that's really important for us as a company, and we can get into that later. We're very sustainable. So everything we do, we put the environment first. We think about the environment. So we don't do a CalMag wash. Two is our cocoa is OMRI listed, right? And if you do a CalMag wash, you can't get the OMRI listing, right? So our cocoa is OMRI listed. So you bring our cocoa in. We want a good cation exchange. So we bring our cocoa in. EC's about 0.5. It's been washed really well, washed a lot of the sodium out. You're going to rehydrate those bags. So you can rehydrate those bags 2 ways. You said it yourself, you can rehydrate it with reverse osmosis, and then you can do a quench or a CalMag wash, or you can do that after you rehydrate those bags. But what we want to do is we want to get calcium and magnesium in there to buffer that cocoa so that we can get an exchange with our nutrients and our water and our plant. So we want those cations to attach and be uptaking in the plant without stunting it or getting to the point where I'm drawing a blank there, but we don't newt lockout. We don't want newt lockout, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the proper amount of calcium and magnesium in there. Too high of a sodium content, we're going to get a newt lockout.
That's one of the problems with a lot of cocoa. I mean, you guys are getting your cocoa from Sri Lanka?
Yes, sir.
I know this because it's really, really important to source high quality cocoa. And one of the major drawbacks with a lot of lesser expensive brands. So I know we spoke earlier and, you know, we talked about, you know, there's less expensive brands on the market, but are you going to take the chance with someone's lesser expensive cocoa if they got coastal cocoa, it's high in sodium, its pH is way off. There's a plethora of potential pitfalls by running a lesser expensive coconut coir or any peat product. If the pH is not correct, it's not well buffered, if the QA is not there, and you know, one of the things you alluded to earlier was you're science-based, which means the QA is there. You guys have been around a long time. And that's one of the things when you're buying a brand is you're buying the repeatability and trusting. That's why people buy brand name, is because they know they can trust that product instead of product XYZ, which is why you haven't seen a lot of people jump in the market. I mean, there's Sunshine and there's a few others, but having a bag of Promix HP, there isn't tons of competition in the space. Yeah, there's no margin, but there's not tons of competition because you're shipping, X amount of bags on a pallet, shipping's expensive, all these things. I mean, everything's got more and more compressed every single day with regards to profit, but neither here nor there.
And I always say too, you want to pay 20 cents less for a bag, you're more than welcome. Not every customer is my customer, and I'm okay with that. There's different styles of growing. There's different budgets. Everybody is different. So I never look at somebody and say, you're doing it wrong. There's no such thing as you're doing it wrong. It's you're doing it the best way you can do it for you, right? There may be an alternative way that's better, but it might not be for you. So I never like to criticize anybody or tell anybody they're ever doing it wrong because, there's so many different ways to grow, and you can grow outside of core and peat. So, but the way I look at it is you pay 20 cents less for a bag, that's okay. But you pay 20 cents more for a bag. Yes, you're getting a great product. You're getting a high quality product. You're getting a product from a company that's been around 100 years, put science-based, but you're also getting a service. We are a service company. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And that's why I'd like to speak on that here is that yes, you get our product, but you get us for the lifetime that you're a customer. We have on-site services. We have analytical testing. We do water testing. We do tissue testing. We have a grower service where if you have a challenge in your grow and you're like, something's not right. I don't know if it's the soil. I don't know if it's the nutrient. I don't know what it is. We'll call our grower services line. We have on-staff PhD scientists that are going to work with you because you're our customer and we're not charging you. Okay. Some companies, if they do offer this, it's, who knows, $100, $200 an hour. I don't know, just throwing random numbers out there, but I'm sure it's a lot. But, we offer this for free because you're our customer. You're part of our family, right? At the end of the day, we do believe in family. We are a family as a business, and our purchasers are our external family. We want to see you succeed because at the end of the day, if you don't succeed, we don't succeed. If you're not happy, we're not growing. This is a two-way street. This isn't a I sell you and dip out kind of situation because then I lose a customer anyways. You're never coming back. You're not happy. And with social media nowadays, that ain't getting pulled anyways. So, the goal is to create this partnership, this relationship to where you're buying my product, which inertly helps me, but now I'm helping you create an amazing product, and I'm there every step of the way, ensuring that you're getting satisfaction, that you're getting great things, and if you're not, how can we fix it together as a team?
So if I'm growing 4 plants, I can call up Promix and be like, something's wrong.
We do have grower service, yes, you can call.
What number is that?
I see the number down below. I don't have it on staff, but we'll get it to you and you can get it to your customer.
Okay, perfect. So, that's the most difficult thing is in this world of information is misinformation, and finding out good information and having access to be able to find out if I have hops. So one of these growers can actually send in their tissue culture or plant tissue and say, hey, find out what's wrong with my plant, and you can assess.
Work with you, yes. So you'll work with grower services, and they have different ways of handling services. So you'll call them up, you'll talk to them, and then they'll get you in the right path of what you need to do and what they need to do and how they can help you.
Amazing. That's a nice value add. Now,
100% nice value add.
One of the things I really also like about I just talked about hops is the moment you reuse your pot. If you take a 2-gallon pot, for example, wash it in Virkon, clean it, and there's a ton of labor associated with that. But more importantly, why I love the plastic, it's single use. So if I've had any pathogens, any potential problems, any fungus gnats, I have no chance of spreading that potential problem to my next crop. By cleaning my pots, I run that risk. I'm not a big fan of the waste, but the bags are biodegradable, which is a plus. So the fact that 2 years UV treated, biodegradable, this breaks down in 2 years is what you're saying.
Yes, sir. And we use a product, like I said, it's Echo 1 in our bags that help biodegrade and break down to be more environmentally friendly.
Okay.
Now you said something about pots. We'll talk about it. We've been talking a lot about the blocks, but we also, it's worth noting, we also have bagged core. So we have loose fill core. We have CCX, which we call, which is 100% core, and that's a mix of pith and husk. And then we have CPX, which is core 70%, 30% perlite. But what's really unique about this, and we talked a little bit about this on the phone, and I like to point it out, is that we're the only company on the market that offers loose fill core with viable spore mycorrhiza infused into that core. So we're saving you money on that end. right? So you don't have to inoculate your core to build up your rhizosphere. We already have viable spores inoculated inside of those two products there.
Super. That's good to know. And that's in this. We also have loose fill, 50-liter bags. And you have Bacillus subtilis added to it also, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yeah, market varying. So some markets only have mycorrhiza, others have Bacillus. Depends on your market, because you're Canadian based, we got US based. So check your market. One of them are going to at least have mycorrhiza, and some have Bacillus as well.
In respect to the cation exchange capacity, I know that Coco is better, but how is the Promix HPs? And by the way, the two have, I've done blending of the two. I love peat, even though it's quote unquote not environmentally friendly. Now, can you speak to that? I know it's common knowledge that peat bogs are,
For 20 years, I've been getting this question, since I first started. I've kind of always found my way to selling soil. It's like the picks and shovels. Without soil, you're not growing anything. It's the best soil. So, first thing to note is that Premier Tech is Veriflora certified. So what is Veriflora certified? It means that we were certified in the bogs that we manage, that we are responsible peat land managers. So we harvest peat responsibly. There's a lot of talk that is peat biosustainable? Yes and no. We do know that over, a long period of time, peat grows back. There's also there's also worth noting, and I'll take you through the story. So bogs have multiple layers, right? So you have the top layer, which is the blonde layer. You have a little middle layer that's a little mix of blonde and black. And then you have the bottom layer that's black. So in our products, we use blonde peat. It's the best peat, hence why our peat products are a little bit more expensive. And what you'll do is you'll go into these peat bogs and you'll harvest. So you'll scrape off the peat bogs. The way that we handle our peat bogs is we'll scrape off the blonde. We do not go to the middle level or the bottom level, right? So we're always scraping off the top layer. And then after we're done with the peat bog and we're done scraping off the top layer, we go ahead and plant back on that bog to allow it to regrow. So now that we haven't damaged the bog, we haven't scraped it halfway or all the way to the bottom, we haven't ripped it to shreds. We've kind of think of it, the best way I can say is you fell on your skateboard, you ripped your knee open pretty deep, but not deep enough to get stitches. You get that scab over it, and you look down and a couple weeks later and it's healed, right? So maybe not that fast, but that in essence is an analogy of what we're doing. We're harvesting that top blonde, and then we're going back, we're planting over, and we're ensuring that that bog grows back. Now, you'll have other companies that do not live by that same motto. So once the blonde's gone, they'll come in, they'll scrape the middle, then they'll scrape the bottom, and they'll scrape the bottom so bad that they'll damage the bog at that point to the point where growing back takes 200 years, right?
So you wiped out on the skateboard and rubbed your whole leg off?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to amputate that guy, almost. We're not completely going to amputate it, but we're almost to that point. They've basically damaged it to the point of it's going to take forever to return. And then not everybody necessarily goes back and plants over it either, right? You just expect the bog to renew on its own. So that's what's important for us is we own our bogs, we take care of our bogs, we manage our bogs, and that's why we're able to get that certification is because we only use the highest quality peat. And when we're done, we go and put the environment first. We go back and we plant. We spend the money to bring that bog back to where it needs to be.
That's really good to know.
Because if you ever look at your peat, it's good to know is that, the darker the peat gets, the lower the quality. The lighter the peat is, the higher the quality, right? So when you buy a bag of peat and you go, well, this is 3 times cheaper than Promix, and you look at it and it's dark, you don't have as high quality, right? And that makes a difference.
That's cool to know. I had no idea. I didn't know that.
That's what we, as I see here, Jason, my team member's in here, and he wants everybody to know, and he's absolutely right. Restoration is the key for sustainability, and that's what we're doing. We're making sure that we do restoration on every bog that we work on to make sure it remains sustainable.
Cool. How deep are you guys going, approximately, for fun?
Deep wise, I don't know the level. I know that there's layers, and we don't cross the blonde layer.
Okay.
So we could research that. We could figure that out. I don't know the exact level depth, but yes, we only take the top layer off.
Amazing. So another interesting, I went to Royal Gold in California.
I know them guys, Michael and everybody. Yeah.
They're great people down there. And I was quite dumbfounded, actually, that they use your automation. You guys are an automation company also. Premier Tech is, that's a serious machine.
That is a serious machine, yeah.
You guys are making the machinery for all of these soil companies to bag So you took a technology that you guys invented and you're now sharing it with the rest of the, basically open source soil bagging.
Correct. And that's good for the market on a whole. If we hoarded it, how can we spread that mission that we're trying to achieve of sustainability to create, a better environment for everybody, more efficiencies, better products. That's what I love about Premier Tech is it's not about hoarding, it's about sharing, right? To follow that mission at the end of the day, which is sustainable.
Yeah, and Canadian based. It's not very often you actually have someone that's creating technologies based in Canada. That's
Oh, the Canadians are pretty good at that. It is unique, but very good.
I'm not shooting down Canadians. It's just nice to have businesses that are domiciled in Canada and that are actively changing markets. That I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's awesome. I think it's an amazing thing. That is really awesome for the company. It's also worth mentioning, as a segue, we talked a little bit about it earlier. I think we can touch on it now because it's important. Is we talk about core, we talk about peat, but what's the number one reason for using those besides just growing on a hole versus something like rock wool is, well, we use these products because we want the hydroponic setting of rock wool, right? We want to be able to feed to create a larger yield, but we want to be able to create rhizospheres, right? The rhizosphere is one of the most important parts of a plant on a whole. In order to get it beautiful up top, get it to smell great, get it to taste great, you need a good rhizosphere at the bottom. Bacterias, mycorrhizas, a good soil base, a good nutrient base. And we inoculate, as I said before, our core with mycorrhiza, our open top grow bags, which we really haven't talked a lot about, but our peat is infused with mycorrhiza. We have a product called Connect that people can buy on the market. Connect is our mycorrhiza inoculant powder, and that has 6,000 viable spores as well per inoculation. It's a really great product for growers to have. My whole career, no matter where I work, I've always focused on soil. I've grown a little bit in my day as well, and that's why I love selling soil, is because I think soil is one of the coolest things. A lot of people like light, some people say it's VPD. Yeah, it's all of those things, but for me, it's always been about soil first. I just love that rhizosphere. If you get that rhizosphere right, you get those bacterias in there, you get those mycorrhizas in there, get them firing, you're getting better nutrient uptake, you're getting more nutrition to the plant, you're getting all these bacterias that do amazing things that we don't even really understand under there, and then you end up with a plant that smells amazing, tastes amazing. I mean, everybody loves rosin, right? That's a big, huge thing, is getting those dabs in, but they want it to taste flavorful. And if you've ever tasted a dab on a rock wool plant versus a soil-grown or core-grown rhizosphere, there's a huge difference.
I mean, there's a saying, right? Big roots, big fruits. It's a real thing. And I've grown currently twice with the Promix CX blocks, and I really like them. They've proven really well. There's the last 2 runs, no fungus gnats whatsoever, which is quite rare for a lot of cocos.
Somebody asked if the spores flush out when you buffer. So when you flush, you're always going to lose spores. So if you flush, you might want to re-inoculate. That's for sure. I generally do it every 4 weeks. I'll inoculate my cocoa. I don't know about you.
And you're actually re-inoculating every 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm a big guy in that though, but I'm big on bacteria and mycorrhizas in my soil as a whole. I'm always going to add a little bit extra. I find that I get a hardier plant, a healthier plant, and a better plant.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of teas, and that's ultimately what you're trying to do, is brew a tea and colonize microbes like crazy. So
yeah, and teas are what, aerobic bacteria, right?
Yeah, they're aerobic. What you don't want with the tea is to get into an anaerobic state. So it's highly oxygenated to start, and then you put it into the medium. And I find that unlocks nutrients and creates a shot of growth that nothing else I've ever seen can. I love bokashi. I love amending with a fish hydroxylate, kelp, alfalfa, a whole bunch of things. And really it marries the two and it becomes this, I know it's terminology that synganic is a synthetic with an organic backbone. I find it to be the best. And you really pop the terpenes. Fish shit it basically is a great additive on top of it. Yeah, amazing stuff.
100%.
So at this point, Chris, we're gonna open the floor to questions. Sarah's our moderator for questions. What do we got so far, Sarah? Is the cocoa pre-buffered, which we...
Yes. So it's buffered. It's not cow mag washed. It does have an EC. Let's rephrase that. So it's pH, and its pH range is about 5.5 to 7.0. Its EC when it arrives to you is about 0.5, right? But you still have to quench it or cow mag wash it when you hydrate it.
Okay. What is your specific strain for PTSD?
Oh, my Pacific strain. I'm very old school, so my mind races really fast. I get a lot of racing thoughts, a lot of anxiety. So I like to use old school strains. I used to love GDP. That's a really good one. Granddaddy Purps.
Granddaddy Purp, yeah.
I love a good Afghani. I'm not really big into the newer hybrid strains with this cross, with this cross, with this cross. I'm more of an OG guy. I like the old school strains myself.
I mean, if that's what you grew up on, that's kind of what you gravitate towards anyways.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. A good super silver haze is always nice too. I like it.
I like the old school hazes. I mean, they have that real cat piss funk smell, but the effect is amazing of an old school haze.
This is
Should you always use a potassium silicate first, or does it matter?
There is a process in which you want to use a silicate. You want to use if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, I think you want to do the CalMag first and the potassium silicate second.
For me, I would 100% drench a calcium magnesium product, and then when I went to water with food, I would add the potassium silicate, not potassium silicate, but I'd use a monosaccharic acid first.
SiO2, right?
Yeah, I'd use that first. You wait a little while, power SI, you wait 40 minutes, and then you add your food in, and you do your first water.
Yeah, I've seen people add it with the CalMag. They'll CalMag their water, then add the SiO2, and it'll precipitate, and it kind of defeats the purpose. So I always recommend separating those two.
Coco loves to steal your CalMag due to the cation exchange capacity. And that's one of the symptoms that you see time and time again. Every medium has its pros and cons. It doesn't matter what it is. If you reuse your peat, it becomes acidic. If you're running rock wool, it becomes alkaline. It starts very alkaline and it evens out. So it's really important, whatever medium you're growing in, before I even get started on any medium, I'm testing the pH of what the runoff of that medium is. And I'm compensating my food. So if I'm sitting at a 5 pH in whatever medium, I'm gonna be feeding at a 7 to hopefully end up around 6, right? So it's the game of ensuring that I'm in that right pH zone. And it doesn't matter what medium, it doesn't matter what batch to batch. Cocoa is a natural product. It's sustainable. It's a fantastic medium. I've grown it dozens of times, and every single medium, like every single plant, needs to have its time, its effort, its learning, it's all those things. And then once you figure those things out, it becomes a breeze. So there's a few parameters with every single part of growing. There's no, well, do this and you're done. No, it's not that easy.
So. I think you got a good point there. As we've seen the cannabis industry grow, I've been in it since, 2014, give or take. We've seen the wealth of products just expand and expand and expand. Oh, this new great thing, this new great thing, this new great thing's going to make you a better grower. This new great thing's going to make you a better grower. Companies are constantly coming out with these next great things going to make you a better grower. But what I got from what you said, and I always say this too, no matter where I'm growing, whether it be low scale in a closet or high scale commercial grows, is let's start with the basics. Like you said, right? Let's just start with something simple. What's our pH? What's our EC? What's our inputs? What's our out? Let's just pull back all this extra underlights and all this and that. What's our VPD? Yeah. Let's do the basics first. Mastering the basics will grow you a 10 times better plant than the guy that has all the bells and whistles and every next best thing that's been introduced into the cannabis space for the last 5 years. Let's get rid of that and go back to the basics.
The thing that's nice about today's cultivation is we have data. We have access to real information. Before we used to be, we didn't measure light levels. We didn't measure VPD. It was temperature and humidity. Where are you at? Right? pH, where are you at? And there's so many more variables that are available to look at what the problem is. And really you can get ahead of it. The nice thing about all the data is we're able to identify problems before they become problems. And I think that goes for general health. If I'm eating too many donuts today, I might want to, get ahead of that and go for a run. So same. All of it kind of is a holistic way of looking at cultivation. More questions. Do you get thrips with cocoa?
You get thrips if you introduce them into your grow. You get thrips if you get dirty cocoa. Depending if you don't know where your supplier is, how your cocoa was stored makes a big difference to it. So it's a variable question. I think you have to look at a lot of different factors. The short answer is no, you shouldn't. but that doesn't mean that you won't. And I fall back on, introducing it yourself without even knowing it. How was that cocoa stored? Where'd you buy that cocoa from? Wherever you bought that cocoa from, how were they storing it? Was somebody in a grow that had thrips that brought it into the store? So there's a lot of variables. The short answer should be no, but anything is likely impossible when you have a product move through multiple hands.
I do like a Bannerman one's comment. It's just 5 happy faces with donuts.
I need a Boston cream from Tim Hortons.
Yeah. A person after my own heart. Is there any difference between Promix Pro line or the Promix crap they sell at Walmart? I'm just saying that because I hate Walmart.
Yeah, everybody hates going. No, the Promix at its core, we use the same peat for every product. Every product is specially formulated for its specific market, right? So if you look at our bales, we have 4 or 5 different types of bales, and what's in those bales are market catered. So it's not better or worse, it's catered to that gardening market. Is it catered specifically for cannabis? No, that's why we have our products for cannabis. Can you use it in cannabis? Absolutely. Is it the best product for cannabis? Probably not, because that formulation is more or less made for the gardeners at home that are growing tomatoes, zucchinis, fruits, and vegetables. So every product of Promix has got the highest quality product, but then the way it's blended and mixed is for that particular consumer.
I mean, in the 90s, I remember fondly looking back, we used to buy massive amounts of Sunshine Mix number 4. That was what the early days of BC Bud looked like. And then I looked at Promix and I was like, this is more. And what I didn't like about, personally, I didn't like how much peat compresses. When I found Promix, I found you'd start here with Sunshine in a 3-gallon pot, for example, and by the time you're ready to crop out, the medium is compressed, which tells me 2 things. It's got less oxygen available to it. It's very, very fine peat, which roots love. Roots really took off in a really fine peat initially, but that root ball compressed so much that I'm like, this can't be good, right? One of the things I like about cocoa is you start here, you finish here. It does not compress at all. And the Promix HP drops a little bit, right? Over time. It does compress a little bit, but between Sunshine and Promix, that was one of the things that I noticed, is the Promix compressed considerably less because it had more fiber, more of a woody substrate.
And that goes back to what we talked about in the earlier parts of our conversation, is what level of peat, where are they harvesting it, which quality of peat are they using? That's going to make all the difference when you grow with that.
Does the blonder peat have more, is it more fibrous than the blacker peat?
Give you more aeration, yes sir.
So if it's way down on a peat bog, it's already compressed, they're grabbing it and, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Difference between HP Amplify and HP Reach.
So HP, one has mycorrhiza and one has mycorrhiza and bacillus. So that's the difference between the 2.
Okay. What's the optimal size pot to run cocoa in? It's an interesting question.
Interesting question. It's a variable question because it's one personal preference, 2 depending on your setup. I would say recommend at least a 2-gallon if you want a nice sized plant. You want to do at least, because 1 gallon's okay for vegging in, but then when you get the flower, it may reduce, and limit your plant. So I would say at least a 2-gallon to get a nice sized plant that's going to give you some nice fat colas.
It's a tough question because
yeah, it is.
It's like saying which size wheel should I put on my car?
Yeah, do I want 33s, 35s? What do I want?
It depends what you want to do. Do you want big plants, small plants? Are you doing a lot of dry backs? Are you crop steering? There's too many variables. I'm doing a 1-gallon pot, but we're crop steering, and this plant will end up being 2.5, 3 feet tall in a 1 gallon. Now, if the pump dies, that plant dies very, very quickly. There's, I see pros and cons to a lot of things. If I'm growing outside on a 10-foot tall plant, I'm going to be growing in a 50 to 100-gallon pot, right? My dry backs I'm not too worried about, as long as that whole root ball breathes, and I'm running a fabric pot. So it's a difficult question without a specific answer.
Have fun with it, and you'll figure it out.
Maybe we should do a little tour of the plants. We just flipped into flower. I'll kind of give you a little peruse of what we got going on. Plants are looking super healthy. It's called a blackberry. The spacing is spot on, and it's clean. there's the 1 gallon CX. Yeah, I really like the riverless emitters. They're my favorite. They don't plug the hole. There's no restriction. They bend beautifully. They separate the water. I really like those drip emitters. And say hi to Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy.
And Sarah's hiding.
I got a question for you.
In the corner, Sarah.
Just curious. I've used, I think, 3 or 4 of the other competitors. And one of the things I noticed is the consistency of the Coco is always different. And yours, I can see on the top, if you want to show the layer, you can see that there's actual chunks. And there's also some pieces that are fibrous and small and ground up. And that's the one thing as I've found a big difference in some where it almost felt like wood chips. And I'm just wondering how much effort did you guys go through to like get that perfect blend? And some don't expand very well either. They take forever to try and get the water. And I'm just wondering what you guys did that's different to make them consistent, and why is it? It seems like it's a blend of between some of the other ones that are really soft and small.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are really chunky. So that does you get where I'm going with that?
Yeah. So you've got a blend of chip and like a real fine pith type of
How
thing.
do you do that? You have to build a facility, or at least have ownership in a facility. So when we talk about Sri Lanka, we have ownership, a big chunk of ownership in the facility in Sri Lanka. So we have a lot of control and a lot of say-so in how we put together our products in Sri Lanka. Not to say everybody does this, but what you have is a lot of what's called PL in the industry, private label. So you have a major manufacturer of core that just does it in mass production. And then you'll get a US company that'll go buy it in bulk, bring it over here, put it in their bags, or have it put in bags over there, and then just sell it to the market, right? So they're just taking what's already worked on. We have control because we have a manufacturing facility in Sri Lanka that we own a large portion of. So we are very much in control. Going back to the science and research, right? We're very much in control of how it's made, how it's bagged, how it goes up. We monitor that quality control to our specs. It's not to their specs, it's to our specs. Where a lot of other companies are PLing, so they're just picking up the specs of whatever's being made and putting it in their bags. They don't have control over it. They're just buying it in bulk and reselling it.
So is it also RHP certified?
RHP certified. I'm not sure if I know that one.
Okay. And I mean, certifications are pretty...
Certified? I don't know what RHP is. I haven't heard that one.
You're OMRI, which is really important, which is why you're not adding any calcium, magnesium at the facility, correct?
That is correct. That is exactly correct.
Okay, because you would not be able to get that if you did not.
No, any core that is buffered with CalMag is not OMRI certified. It's no longer considered organic.
Okay.
Jeremy, Lauren Cornish said, I thought you sold the tripod.
I don't know what that was about.
Oh, that was the light stand. That was the light stand last one. Okay, good. Well, any other questions? That's it. That's all. Chris, I think our time here is done.
All right, Justin. Well, I appreciate you having me on here. You're an awesome dude. Love your audience. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time and really enjoyed it.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris. Happy growing and all the best.
All right.
Take it easy.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.